Hello and welcome to today's webinar, How to Make Money and Keep Customers Happy During a Labor Shortage, brought to you by Landscape Management Magazine and our sponsor of the event, Slingshot. My name is Seth Jones. I'm the editor-in-chief of LM. I want to say thank you to everyone involved in the webinar today, including Jeffrey Scott, our panelists, Slingshot, and you, the audience. Today's webinar has a tremendous audience. We might even be breaking an LM record today. We'll see when after this thing's all over and how the dust settles. So before we get started, I want to let you know that today's webinar will be recorded. You are currently in a listen-only mode. A recording of the webinar will be posted to landscapemanagement.net/webinars, and we'll also email it out to everyone tomorrow. At this time, I'd like to show you the ways in which you can participate during today's presentation. If you experience any technical difficulties during today's event, you can use the Q&A panel on the screen to submit your issue, and assistant producer Aurora Harris, producer Joey Ciccolini, or I will personally assist you. You can learn more about our speakers by viewing their photo, bio, LinkedIn, and email address in the panel located on the upper left-hand side of your console. If you're into social media and logged into your accounts, you can share the webinar's title, description, and URL with your friends using the Share This widget you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Okay, so again, let's change the slide here. Am I on the right slide right there? No, let me go back, slide off. Okay, so everyone, I want to say welcome again to today's webinar about how to make money and keep customers happy during a labor shortage. Now I'd like to introduce a friend of LM's and a friend of the industry. There we go. Jeffrey Scott. Jeffrey Scott is the leading authority on growth and profit maximization in the green industry. He grew his high-end landscape firm into a successful $15 million enterprise, and now he helps others achieve success. Jeffrey has consulted with over 300 lawn and landscape companies over the past 10+ years, and he facilitates the industry's largest peer group of landscape and irrigation business owners. His clients achieve from 25% to 200% profit improvement in their first year. Jeffrey is a longtime columnist for LM, appearing regularly in our publication, which goes out to 65,000 print subscribers nationwide a month, and over 10,000 people read his weekly newsletter, Growth Tips. He is here to help you today with how to make money and keep customers happy during a labor shortage. Jeffrey, the stage is all yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Seth. Landscape management, Slingshot. I love this topic. This is really one of my favorite topics. I want to make sure the screen changes here. Can you guys see me? Let's see, it's making the move. Oh, now it's all black. Can you guys hear me? Then we'll know if you can see me. I'm just going to make sure. Well, it has a black screen here. Maybe somebody in the background can help make the shift.
Yeah, you want me to advance the slide for you, Jeffrey?
Seth,
I can see you. Yeah, I can see you and hear you.
I'm just supposed to show up on the screen. Apparently, it will make the switch eventually. So let me keep talking. And
Jeffrey, you're good. It's working on our ends. Yeah, it's all good.
All right. All right, good. So I love this topic. I love customer service. I love making money. I don't think anybody should be in the service industry, the green industry, service industry, unless they love customer service. And all business owners have to learn to love how to make money. And this year, both of those are very challenging, which is why we're putting on this webinar. And I've invited two longtime clients, really smart business people, to speak with me here on this topic. And so a little bit later, I'll bring on Ted Lucia, who runs Lucia Landscaping outside of Detroit. And he runs really a full service, install multiple types of maintenance services, snow, commercial, residential. And so he's going to give you boots on the ground feedback from that perspective. And then Chris Vedrani runs a company in the Maryland region, which is very high-end bid build, also maintenance, full service maintenance. And so with the two guest speakers here, we really cover the full spectrum of the green industry. I'm going to just share some some fundamentals before I call them on. By the way, I was just thinking, Seth, that I started working in this industry when I was 7 in my family business. My initial job was taking out the garbage and then helping with renderings. And I'm 57 now. That's 5 decades. That's a scary number. It's a lot of time in the industry. Obviously, I spent time outside the industry as a consultant and earning my MBA, and I worked a stint in Europe before I came back in to the green industry. So I love this industry, and really I love it more today than I did initially. It's really just it's a really exciting time, I think, to be in this industry with the new technology, just like Slingshot, and that we'll learn about more today, and to build your career in this industry, right? We learned through COVID that we are essential, and we really are. And I think that's what's attracting all kinds to come and invest in our industry. So just a great time to be in the green industry. So I want to talk about 5 metrics that you should consider to get a better handle on in order to run your business profitably, whether it be in 2021 or in the years to come. And so a client of mine, a coaching client named Shana, I won't give her last name, just keep it a little bit private, but she runs a landscape company in Pennsylvania. And she came to me earlier this year, and the company was really off track, and her husband wanted help, coaching help sort of help getting the company to the next level. And one of the things we did together was build a budget and really set up a way to manage the business by the numbers. But then with this, when the industry, when the industry really suffered from all the setbacks we're seeing in labor and materials, the budget we set up no longer valid. And so she wanted help to what do I do? She wanted help redoing the budget we had set up. And I worked with her to go even further back to the basics. And so the first thing we did was identify the number of billable hours that her company needed to sell and produce in this year. And so the billable hours really is the work that you're scheduling on your schedule, right? So the scheduler, their job is to schedule, manage the crews, but what you're really doing is managing the billable hours. Billable hours are key because that's how you recover overhead and profit. Let's say your budget is based on 10,000 billable hours, just picking a number here. And then all your overhead and all your profit gets divided amongst those 10,000 hours. So you've got to produce those 10,000 hours in order to recover all your overhead and achieve your profit goals. If you can produce more than 10,000, then you're going to make even more money. But like has happened to many people this year, if you find that you're off track and you're only going to produce, let's say 9,000 hours or 8,000, all of a sudden you're not going to recover all your overhead and profit, and you're going to make less profit. You might break even. You might even lose money. And when Shanna came to me, we might, because we're so far off. And so we had to really dig down and calculate what are the billable hours for the year that your budget's based on, and how many, and then what does that equal per month, and then per week, and how does that stand with how many you're actually able to schedule and produce. And the amount of billable hours was less than her original budget. When she got a handle on really how many hours it is per week, then she was able to redo, get herself back on track, make the tougher decisions earlier in the season. And that's what she did. And now she has a budget, what I've set up as a rolling budget, and the budget's tied in to her schedule. So the people in her company that are scheduling know exactly how many billable hours they've got to do every week, every month, and then, year to date where they need to be in order to meet the budget assumptions and fulfill the budget. So that's the foundation. And if you find yourself behind schedule, you've got to get down to the basics and know the number of billable hours. That's the number one metric. All the others are really important, but that's the number one most important. And then from billable hours comes non-billable, right? Somebody works 40 hours a week for you, or 50 hours, or 55, or 60. There's a certain number that are billable, and a certain number, a small number, hopefully, that are non-billable. And it depends what you count as a billable or non-billable, right? For some, travel's billable. For some, it's non-billable. But you want to manage the non-billable because you don't want it to grow beyond your assumption that you set at the beginning of the year. If it grows, that means if the non-billable grows, that means the billable is shrinking. And generally, when you're running tight on labor, you want to shift incrementally your labor, keep them out of the non-billable, and try to shift more of those non-billable hours into the billable, into the bucket, the billable bucket, because that's where you're going to recover your overhead, earn your profit. So it's important to manage that balance between billable and non-billable and make sure the non-billable doesn't grow above what you set for your initial assumption. And even if you can eke out and squeeze it down so that you have more on the billable side, you're going to do better. Now, if you've never set up billable hours, one of the keys, or the key, if you've never done it, you need a template. And so it's good to look back 3 or even 5 years if weather variability has been extreme in whatever niche you're in. And you want to get a good handle on, for every type of work you do, install, fertilize, for every kind of work you do, how many billable hours are you able to do each month with a given crew? January, February, March, April, May. So you may have 10,000 billable hours for a division, but how does it spread out over the 12 months? It doesn't spread out evenly, most likely, and you can't just make it up or just look at last year because there are going to be certain exceptions. So you need to come up with an average over a 3 or even 5 year period, the first time you do this analysis, and figure out what kind of billable hours you can actually depend on and budget on. The biggest mistake I see is being overconfident and basing your assumption on the best year you had, the best March you had, the best December you had. And you're really not likely going to hit the best again. You're going to hit some kind of average. So you need to know what those averages are to make conservative assumptions, realistic assumptions, so that you can hit them. And so the second metric is knowing your non-billables, because it's the billable plus the non-billable that makes up your payroll. And so managing the two, and especially managing them in the seasonality, you may think you're, as for example, 80% billable in March, but if you go back, you might see, well, that only happened one March. And in the other Marches, we were only 50% billable and 50% non-billable. So build your assumption based on what's realistic and then work to improve it in the next coming March. But don't start with the optimum, start with the realistic, and then fight for the optimum. So that's the second metric. The third is sort of an effectiveness. How effective are you with your people's time? The third is an efficiency metric, and that's really actual over budget. How efficient are we with the jobs that we do? So managing billable hours is most important, and then non-billable is sort of the cousin to it. And then managing the efficiency of the work you do. Obviously, if you can be hyper efficient, you can squeeze in more billable hours and get ahead of budget and make even more money this year. The opposite can also happen, right? Where you're inefficient, and not only does that put you behind on a job cost, but that puts you behind on the billable hours you need to achieve in any given month or year. So you can lose money in a job, but it also starts to add up where you're going to lose money for the year unless or until you can catch up on the billable hours. So efficiency impacts billable hours. You can't just depend on efficiency. You have to really have a handle on billable hours as well. Let's see. I said 5 metrics, and I really meant 4. So I'm going to give you the fourth metric here of leverage. So we've talked about effectiveness, efficiency. And so now the last one is leverage. That's throughput. And so throughput is the amount of, I'm going to give you a simple definition, the amount of gross profit you make for every billable hour that you do. And so what you'll find as you investigate in throughput, and in some industries, they just use revenue per hour as that measurement, like irrigation. But in other green industries like install, it's going to be, the actual definition would be revenue minus the cost of materials and subs divided by hours. So that's very close to a gross profit per man hour. What it has is it still has the cost of the labor in there. So that's very good for work that has a lot more variability like install. But either way, the higher the throughput number, the more profit you're likely attaching to that man hour. And so that's the other metric. It's really important, but for many of you, the others are sort of the foundation. And then you're graduating, I would call throughput as sort of the higher level metric that you then learn how to manage. And so if you only have so many man hours this year, especially when you're falling behind and you're having trouble hiring, then you need to do work that has a higher throughput that attaches more profit to that man hour that will help you pay for overhead and pay for ultimately the profit of your company. So that means looking at the mix of services of work you do, type of work you do, irrigation install, irrigation repair, fertilizer, right? Fertilizer is going to be high throughput. Irrigation repair is going to be high throughput. Planting could be high to medium high throughput. You have to really measure all the different types of work you do and then see where the highest throughput is and then make some tough decisions, even mid-year, if you're sitting in a bind with not enough labor. All right, what work do we get done? Look at your throughput number to decide what you're going to do in the second half of the year. And these are all really important metrics that you can use every year, but they're especially important this year. So when I followed up with Shanna after she redid the budget, having a better handle on her billable hours and non-billable hours, she got her budget and actual back on track. Right now, she's tracking 7.9 percentage points of profit higher than she actually had in her budget. So she went from heading from tracking below to now back on track and tracking above budget. And so 7.9 points means for every $1 million, that's 79,000. For every 10 million, that's 790,000 of additional profit above her budget. So what I'm telling you works, and it works for all size companies. So that sets the platform on what I wanted to say. And now what I want to do is invite Ted to come speak. Ted, Lucia. Ted, do you want to come on and 30-second or a minute intro yourself on your company, what you do, and where you're located?
Sure. Sounds good.
So just tell us who you are and about your company.
Yeah, so I'm Ted Lucia Landscaping. We're located Metro Detroit area in Michigan, and we're a full-service landscape and snow company. So anything from maintenance to design, build, irrigation, lawn, tree, and shrub care. We do both residential and commercial properties, and we've just been in high growth mode with a really successful rockstar team. And we're super excited about our future and where it's at. But we feel like our culture is what's leading or taking the lead here. And so happy to be on this webinar with Jeffrey, and happy to chat with everyone today.
Ted, you're awesome. You definitely have a rock star team. Let me start with the first question here. I have two questions for Ted. He's prepared, so he's got some very thoughtful answers. Ted, balancing labor and sales to make profit in this unique year, how have you attacked that challenge?
Yeah, it's been pretty difficult. Last year was difficult. This year started off pretty difficult. But, one thing we always remember is what gets measured gets done. So we think about that as a management team, as leadership team that works all the way throughout our company. If we measure it, it gets done, and it gets done effectively. So we track our progress daily and provide feedback to our teams daily as well, along with goal setting. That helps out. Our teams love it. They want to know if they're winning or they're losing, so that's big. Included in that would be overtime tracking. To balance your labor and your sales to be profitable, you're going to need to really measure your overtime. Look at what's average overtime for your teams month over month, week over week, year over year, and then make sure you're communicating with them properly so that they can get the hours they need, but the company can get make the profits that they need to make. Along with a little bit what Jeffrey spoke about earlier, big one, sometimes doesn't get thought about enough, is not just selling by dollars, but selling by hours. I think that's huge, just knowing your capacity, but using hours as a unit that can get measured, and just understanding, week after week, month after month, what your hours need to be so that you can understand if you're at capacity. Because if you go over capacity or you sell too much, that can also be an issue with your clients because you might have provided the wrong expectation level. And I know we've all fallen into that at some point, but we do want to manage our clients' expectation levels so that we can be as busy as possible throughout the year and keep our teams as busy as possible. In addition, sell at higher rates when you're busy. You should have higher gross margin. I know Jeffrey talks a lot about that, but it's, if you're busy, sell at a higher rate and make sure your work is profitable enough. That'll increase your revenue and increase your profits. One other thing to consider is, leveraging your team. So when you're super busy and, everyone's slammed, what you can do is start leveraging your team, move around the experienced guys a little bit to get more production done. We will sit in meetings weekly, in production meetings, and make sure we're moving around kind of like a game of chess. We're moving around chess pieces so that we can get our work done, hit our budgeted hours, but make sure with limited resources at times we can still output effectively and hit our clients' expectation. And then another big one is just selling more at the end of the year once your overhead has been recovered. That's huge. That can really help out with your end of the year profits, which helps out with your full year profits. So those are kind of some of the items that we found that really help us out.
So just a quick follow-up question, raising your prices. How well does your sales team, and Ted has a pretty big sales team, how well does the whole sales team get on board? Do you find as an owner, you're less aggressive than them or more aggressive, and how do you implement it?
Well, we have a really engaged sales team. Again, what we consider rock stars here. It can be a tough pitch at first, right? Because you're asking them to, hey guys, we're booked out. Sometimes we'll pass capacity, and to hit our profit goals, we need to increase our margins. We might do that during certain times of the year, usually. And when we pitch that to them, they need to understand the reasons why, right? And so the first conversation when you first start that can be a little difficult. But after they understand, you need to get everyone's buy-in. So they need to understand all the reasons why. We make sure they understand that. And then after that, we haven't had any issues. They're really good about it. They understand it. And again, it goes back to what gets measured gets done. It's all measured. So their estimates are measured. We know what we should expect out of each job that they're selling.
A big issue that many companies have had, not only this year, but especially this year, is manpower, recruiting and retaining employees. And one of the reasons I invited Ted to speak here is because he's really I don't want to say you've conquered the challenge, but you definitely are on top of it. The challenge isn't overtaking you. You've really got on top of the challenge and done a great job for your company. So how have you done that? It's not magic. I mean, there's some magic in it, but there's a lot of just good best practices. So if you don't mind sharing how you've gone about recruiting and retaining good employees using, savvy techniques.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's probably become one of my favorite things to do. I never knew when I first got into this industry, into this business, that would be something I really enjoyed doing. I knew I loved people. I love working with people. That was one of my favorite things. But recruiting and retaining has become big for us, but it's become big through our culture. And that's all about consistency. So, just a few items I'll step on or go across today are, number one, attract, number two, strategize, and then number three, retain. So, again, at the beginning, it's all about consistency. So what you do to recruit an employee needs to be also what you do to retain an employee. And your culture needs to work consistently throughout your company. So, we've had some challenges, like every other company. Unemployment, big one, right? People that were nervous to return to work, lack of childcare. That's been another one that we've encountered with getting people to return to work. And then in addition to that, especially in the office, applicants that want flexibility, maybe that doesn't apply to the current job opening. So these are all things that we consider when we're looking at candidates. Ways that we have attracted employees. First off, we want to make sure employees match the skill set that the company needs. So make sure that part is intact. And then, make sure your brand represents your business and your culture, and make sure you're promoting that constantly in everything you're doing. We consider what opportunities are we offering. We really hone in on that and identify them. Are we offering the same or better opportunities than our competitors or similar industries? We make sure that we're consistent in everything we do, that our employees are experiencing our culture throughout everything they're doing, whether that's, tailgate meetings, whether that's company parties, whether that's morning dispatch, whatever it may be. And we are heavy about communicating our brand through social media, through meetings. There's a lot of different avenues to do that. I like to focus personally on our vision a little bit more than our mission statement. I believe that's key. And I think that's, part of the theme of our culture here.
What is your vision?
Competitive pay. What's that?
What is your vision?
Yep.
Just so we're clear what you mean.
Yeah, good question, Jeffrey. So, as a company, we operate and work together as a one-team culture, one-team mentality. And so what we strive to do daily is build a better company by improving day-to-day, but operating as a unit, as one team, to create a better future for everyone year after year, day after day. And so our vision is kind of that one team, one dream. That's kind of it in a small summary of it. So
you really,
we've had really good success.
So I'm just going to share. I don't think I'm sharing secrets here, but so you've really branded that and marketed that internally. So you have the company brand externally marketed, and internally you're really marketing one team, one dream, and that's taken on a life of its own, I believe.
It has. I mean, it's been really nice. I mean, we're also promoting it now on our vehicles. It's on all of our shirts on the sides of them, on the sleeves. It's on hats. It's on a lot of stuff. But it also we might end a meeting real quick, and we need to regroup on something. We need to tackle an item, and someone ends the meeting and goes, one team, right? And so it's part of that upbuilding culture. We didn't know how far it was going to go as one of our core values, but it's really become the core of our culture.
Back to you.
All right, thanks. So, competitive pay, are you evaluating that? Make sure you're evaluating that. That's huge. We, started getting into one-time signing bonuses. We also do retention bonuses. Benefits, that's a big one. Hard to do at certain points within the company, but are you offering benefits? PTO, health plans, retirement plans. And then further than retirement plans, are you explaining to your team what that means, what it can mean for them? Because not everyone understands what you know, unless you thoroughly explain it. So educate them on certain things. Are you doing a match for your 401k? And what does that mean for them? What can they achieve if they contribute X amount of dollars per year and you contribute or match that? Other perks we might do, we do a lot of gifts, from swag to gift cards, entertainment tickets, free meals, parties. We have parties all the time, it seems like. But that's just that's part of our core. So
Ted, if I can I interrupt a second? So I'm hearing you talk here, and you're talking about building this culture, and it's a very, it's kind of easy to say, but what does it mean? And what I'm hearing you say is you guys are very active in building the culture. So it's a constant activity that you're doing internally in order to build and strengthen your culture.
Yeah, I mean, to me, culture is a personality of the company. That's our personality. We want everyone engaged. We want everyone having fun. We want everyone working hard, but, work hard, play hard. For example, last week we did a cornhole tournament at our office. It was awesome, very effective, very fun. Everyone had a good time. They're not that hard to do, but you do need some people that are constantly thinking about these things and constantly planning, and again, over communicating them. So I'm going to move on to strategizing. When you're strategizing, not just for the job postings in itself, you want to think about how can we make things a little different, right? So job descriptions, how can we make them more fun? How can we track our applicants through an ATS system or an applicant tracking system? Make sure that, all your employees are feeling the culture. Think about, exactly where you're posting these jobs. Can you post to Facebook? Can you post to Indeed or Craigslist, whatever it may be? Are you pre-qualifying your candidates? Can your existing employees share your job posts? Job fairs, that's a big one, in person or virtual. We do employee referral programs. I think that's a big one for a lot of companies right now. And then you can also conduct interviews via Zoom, right? I mean, make it easy, make it fun. I think that's big. And then, have a solid onboarding process where you can utilize things like the buddy system, or you can identify trainers within your department. Trainers, like team leaders, can train other people. Maybe they, there's some perks behind that for the trainers, but there's perks behind that for the new employees that are coming on board that are going to be trained by these people. And it's contagious to have, a great team leader training a new team member. Let them engage with them. Let them feel the culture off that trainer. So I think that's big. And then lastly would be retaining. So just as hard as we worked at attracting and, engaging or recruiting or hiring this employee, now we need to work just as hard at retaining this employee. And it's all about consistency again. It's all about engaging them. The one time you have to talk with your teams and communicate with them for sure during the day is at dispatch. So we really utilize dispatch in the mornings to really effectively communicate with our teams and make sure the culture is contagious at that time. And then, keep everyone up to date on your current events. There's lots of ways to do that, especially with, technology we have today. And make sure you're scheduling reviews. That's a big one. Educate your team. if you have some people within your company that can be part of that education, team members really appreciate that when you're providing guidance or showing them a path or an opportunity to grow by educating them. And then make sure you're getting your staff's feedback. Make sure you're getting their buy-in. What are some ways to do that? Again, you can use technology to your advantage. You can send out, for example, like a weekly video or a newsletter. Meetings for that can also be very helpful. So consistency is big, and let your culture be contagious, but be consistent throughout. So those are kind of some of the things that we found to be really effective. Of course, we could talk all day about this, but that's what we found.
Ted,
turn it over
awesome.
to you, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I just want to make I have a question for you, and I want to make a point. First off, well done. You said you love working on the recruiting, and thank God you do, because we all get better at things we love doing. And this is really finding, retaining people is our biggest challenge. And somebody asked me last week, should I be spending more time as the owner on this? And I'm like, yeah. And so my question for you, Ted, is how much time do you spend as an owner on this whole topic here of attracting and retaining employees?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, we have some awesome people here that, like our HR representative and some others, marketing coordinators, that help out with this. But we do consider it a team effort. So it's a team effort in terms of recruiting and retaining. But I would say on average throughout the year, I spend anywhere from, let's call it 25 to 30% of my time working on this. Probably because we're, a faster growing organization. Also because I'm passionate about it, and I just love being involved in that end of it. I love feeling who's coming into our company, and it makes me, appreciate more of the culture that we have here.
That's very helpful for people to hear. Tell us how many positions are on your HR team? Or what are the positions?
Yeah, so we have HR administrator that does HR and recruiting. We have marketing coordinator that also assists with the recruiting side. We have another gentleman that I've worked with for many years that's worked as partly helps out on our recruiting side, and then myself. So there's kind of 4 people that are hyper-focused on it, but it's not an all-encompassing role for each of us. We all have a share in it.
So it's not like you're a $20 million company and it's easy to afford these people. Rather, though, you're growing towards a $20 million company, or 10, 15, and then 20. So you have to gear up for the place you're going, not the place you're coming from.
That's correct. Yep.
And you've done a great job of it. Thank you, Ted. Appreciate your time here.
Thank you. Yep, absolutely.
And so that was Ted speaking about his company that's really a full-service install for commercial, residential. And now I want to bring on Chris Vedrani, who runs a little bit more of a, not niche, but focused company, probably a bit more high-end, bid build, high-end maintenance. So Chris, do you want to come online here and finish the introduction about you and your company?
Sure. Thank you, Jeffrey, and hello to all of the viewers. My name is Chris Vedrani, and the company is Planted Earth Landscaping. We're based in Sykesville, Maryland, which is about 45 minutes outside of D.C. We do a lot of work in lower Maryland, Montgomery County. We do a lot of work in D.C. and Northern Virginia. As Jeffrey mentioned, we are a bid build company, which basically means we solicit landscape architects for work. I've been doing this for a long time, so we have a lot of long relationships with landscape architects that continually feed us work, which is amazing. We're a staff of about 65 people now. Install's probably about 35 of those, and then maintenance is probably about 30. So we are, as Ted mentioned, we are growing like crazy. The DC market is a really good market to be in. So with that's come a lot of challenges as well, and personnel is one of them. Yeah, that's sort of our story and who we are, and we are a strictly residential company. So, zero commercial, just 100% residential.
So I've two. Did you experience long supply chain delays, and how did you maintain high levels of customer service? I mean, Ted's clients, I'm sure, are demanding, and yours are probably at a different, even higher level of demanding. So share with us some tidbits of how you worked through any challenges to maintain and keep high levels of service.
So fortunately, there are a lot of smart people that work in our company as well. And we made some decisions. 2020 was actually a really good year for us, even though we shut down for the entire month of April because of COVID. But because we had some cash at the end of the year, we were able to buy some inventory. So we planned ahead. We bought some inventory. We constantly talk to our vendors. So again, I've been doing this a long time. So our vendors, we have great relationships with our vendors. We communicate weekly with our clients and the landscape architects as to, if you're into planting, carpinus are hard to find. So we're talking to our landscape architects weekly saying, hey, can we not put carpinus in the plans? And we're talking to our clients about delays, and for the most part, they've received it pretty well. There are a few that don't understand why, but for the most part, I know this sounds very simple, but it comes down to communication, and we would blow their email boxes up with communication just to try to stay in front of what we thought would be the pending storm. We also have a purchaser, so she was able to, talk to the vendors as well, get availabilities, also discuss that with our clients. So we certainly had delays, but I think for the most part, we've managed them pretty well, and our clients were receptive to maybe having to wait 3-4 weeks for whatever we were waiting for.
Sure. So over communication sounds like part of your strategy plus buying ahead. Every company I consult with, Chris, yours being no different, the one recurring theme that I initially uncover is a lack of enough communication. And really, you have to over communicate internally, just like we heard from Ted. That's a lot of communication he's doing internally. Around culture. And that's what you just told us, over communicating, flooding people's inboxes in order to just get to where you kind of need to be. So I think you guys have really, I don't want to say turn that around, but you're now definitely practicing over communication.
The other thing we did a lot of, Jeffrey, is some of our subcontractors that we use a fair amount, specifically irrigation companies. We do not do any irrigation in-house. They have access to people that can get pipe easier than I do. So we would actually buy materials from our subcontractors when we would have a drainage situation or a job we had to do. We've actually had to buy mulch from a friend that's a competitor, but that's another story. But we bought pipe from our irrigation subs. So we were looking for any avenue to try to reduce that line.
I think that's very creative, and that's a great takeaway for the audience here, right? Talk to your competitors, talk to your subs. Your standard supply chains aren't working. I love that. Mm-hmm. let's work. So I had two questions for you to prepare. The other one is kind of the big question. How do you balance labor and sales to make a profit in this unique year? And I know you have a bunch of strategies, so please share that with us. And let me just ask you, did you feel the pinch? Like we asked Ted, and he's growing fast. The only reason he feels the pinch is because he's on a super fast rate of growth. But by all standards, he did pretty well. How did you guys do?
So we also have an HR department, and we chose to have I forget what Marcy even called it, but a rodeo in February for us, which was just kind of an introduction to the company. We invited all the local communities. We had about 50 people actually show up, sort of like a job fair. And then we had little stations where they could go around and kind of review what we were about. We probably landed 10 to 12 guys from that. What we learned later was a lot of these guys were coming from the restaurant business, and the restaurants were closed and they needed work. So they started landscaping. Some of them, I'd say probably half of them are still with us. The other half have gone back to the restaurant business. But it certainly allowed us to get through that early spring mulching madness that we had. So that was one thing we did. To Ted's point as well, we are super high on retention, and we do a lot for our guys and gals. And I'm happy to say we've got some 10-year veterans. We've only been in business 12 years, but we've got some 10, 11-year veterans. So we're obviously doing something. We'll get to that in a little bit. But what we also do is we sit down as a strategic group. There are 4 folks in our strategic meetings, and we start with an org chart. And this may sound a little backwards, but I'll get to the point here. We start with an org chart, and we sort of budget what we want to do for the following year. And then we know that basically, and this is from historical numbers, every laborer, supervisor, and assistant supervisor should generate a certain amount of revenue per year. For us, that's about $150,000 per employee. As Jeffrey said, these are the billable guys, not the folks that are in the office, the billable people. $150,000 a person. So a crew of 5 will get you roughly $750,000, if I did that math right. $650. So we start there and then kind of work backwards to the budget. So if we want to be a $6.5, $7 million company, we start with how many employees does that take, and then we work the org chart backwards, if that is clear.
Yep.
So and then from there we set the yearly sales goals. So we know we need $7 million of work. I sell a fair amount of the landscape work. We have one other salesperson and a maintenance manager who sells maintenance work. So we work backwards with sales goals that way. So then we also manage all of our work sort of as a company. Again, to Ted's point, we are a team. So we have a couple enhancement crews. So it's very common for us to take the enhancement crew and throw him on a 2.5-week landscape job to speed up the schedule a bit. And then vice versa in the spring, when the maintenance folks are all overloaded trying to get cleanups done, we take the install crews, send them to the maintenance division, and knock out the spring cleanups. So that happened for us the year COVID hit, and it was kind of like a light bulb went off for us. So in March, we made a decision, March of 2020, we made a decision we were going to shut down the month of April and figure out what COVID was, how we were going to manage it. Well, we're all landscapers, so we know what April is for all of us. So we chose to take every guy we had from install, which, like I told you, is about 35, 38 guys, and put them on spring cleanups. And we were able to get all the spring cleanups done in the month of March. Our clients were thrilled. They thought it was going to be May or June. It was one of the best decisions we made. So if you take away anything from this whole talk, teamwork, share the wealth, misery loves company, however you want to describe it, sometimes consolidating forces is the best approach to making money and to keeping guys kind of engaged.
Hey, Chris, we have about 4 minutes left for you, and I think you have some good incentivization ideas. You
Sure.
want to jump to that and share those?
Sure. So, like I said earlier, we're very proud of our team. We interact a lot with them. We think we pay them at the top of their market. We work a lot of overtime, so they like that part. We started a program a few years called the Do Good Stuff program, the DGS program, and basically...
Wait, is that what it's really called?
Well, no, but we're on live, so we'll leave it at that. Do Good Stuff program. There are these tokens, almost like like ball markers for a golfer, that they're worth $20, and we give them out to whoever's done something a little bit above and beyond. And at the end, they can turn them in quarterly or save them for the end of the year. And then there's a whole, almost like your points on your credit cards, you can pick from 15 different things. One of them is spend a day with me, actually see what I do. One of them, if you have enough tokens, is like a weekend getaway for you and your spouse or your partner. Anything to a day off, a paid day off, or cash. So that has been really well received. We also have monthly cookouts for the team. We require them to be back to the shop by 4:30. One of the managers is cooking, and those are really fun. And then we have an annual crab. We're in Maryland, so we have an annual crab party, which this year's Jeffrey's influence has brought us some crawfish as well. So, and we have a Christmas party every year. And we're actually we shut down the company one day a year and take a trip, like a bus trip somewhere. So this year we're going to Longwood Gardens. So I think if you were to ask any of my guys, I think we try really hard to take care of them and to appreciate them. And for that, they do work really hard for us. That's the end goal.
They do good stuff.
They do good stuff. Yep.
So we're about out of time here. You've learned a lot. You worked for some of the great companies. You've had good mentors, business. It is a tough year for many people out there, labor and materials. Well, what's a piece of advice you've learned along the way that's helped you weather this storm?
For me, I would say it is about planning. And Jeffrey knows me well. I'm not super organized. I have a very organized wife who's our accountant, but we spend a lot of time planning for the what ifs and for the future. So I think the fact that I'll use the COVID year as an example. We shut down for a month. We had daily conversations with our management team. We came up with an incredible plan to get back to work, and we hit the ground running. So I think it's plan. I think to Ted's point, if you're struggling with labor and it's you know, what am I trying to say? It's consistency is the word I was looking for. So plan, be consistent, be open. We also have an open book policy with our guys. They know every dollar that we spend. They know how much labor costs us, taxes cost us. They know what I make. So we truly believe in an open book policy. They've really bought into that. So
Yeah.
Did I answer your question, Jeffrey?
Well, you people. So it's easy to buy in when the owner is nice and open. I will say, I think about the fact that you shut down for a month and you still caught up and you had maybe your best year ever last year. This goes to show the hidden capacity that exists within companies. And that takes thoughtfulness to unleash that hidden capacity. You did that by and it just unleashed this desire to work super hard through the cleanups and then shift and work super hard through the backlog. So you did a great job of what I'm going to say, uncovering and realizing the true potential of your team, which allowed you to catch up on hours. So if you did it sort of not by mistake, but it happened by mistake, and you got into it without planning, but good planning got you out of it. And so I think that's a great thought for everybody listening. How much unrealized capacity and talent do you have on your team, and are you really maximizing it? So kudos to you, Chris, and I want to thank you for coming online here.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Thanks to LMN as well. LM.
Landscape management, yeah. So with that, we have our final speaker, and that would be Taylor. Taylor's going to come on here. Did I put it up? I have to push to advance. And so Taylor Olson is the co-founder and the executive chairman of Slingshot, which is the sponsor and a technology that will help many of you here run your business. Will learn about it right now. Taylor has over 10 years of experience in the pest control market, which is very similar to fertilizer, very similar to landscaping in many ways. He's got 10 years in marketing and sales experience. He leads the product vision and strategy for the company. Was founding Slingshot in 2014. He was also busy graduating from UCLA Law School, which, God, I've always wondered what that's like to go to school on the West Coast there. So with that, Taylor, I want to welcome you on.
Thank you, Jeffrey, for having me. Appreciate landscape management for hosting and all the attendees. It's good to digitally see everyone. Appreciate you spending a little bit of your time with us. And, yeah, really happy to be here, Jeffrey.
So I know you have a lot to share with us, but I want to just tap into your business acumen before we jump into sort of looking at the product a little bit. So you run and manage, or your company does, large call centers for lawn care, landscape, pest control. So with regards to balancing labor and service, what are those challenges that you see on a daily basis?
Yeah, I like the way you phrased it. It's daily. It's a daily challenge because call volume tends to ebb and flow throughout the day. More people call in on their way to work, so you get a morning surge. People tend to call at lunchtime, so you get a lunchtime surge of calls. And people tend to call towards the end of the day when they're off work, so it's an evening surge. And so I think the daily challenge is making sure that you're staffed appropriately for those three peaks, and making sure that some of the breaks, whether it's lunch or just a normal break, is consistent with when the troughs are. 10 to 11, 2 to 3. And so just getting that daily forecasting right and staffing to it is critical. And I would say, zooming out, it's already been discussed on this webinar, but it's worth restating. We are in an unprecedented macro environment for labor right now. There's labor shortages everywhere. I feel like every time I open up my news feed, it's a new article about some company that has just raised prices or has to shut a location because they just don't have the heads and the bodies. So that created a unique challenge, I think, for all of us. It's any hourly role that's entry level that some of the government programs that can kind of pay them more or give them more flexibility to do what they need than some of us on the employment side can. It's been hard to get those folks off the bench. And so this year has been fascinating. And the reality of it is it forced us at Slingshot to be really honest about what is the wage level that will get folks to work, and particularly at the times that we need them. You know, there are certain days and hours at Slingshot that are just critical for us to fill. For example, when you look at a week, Mondays for a lawn company are a lot busier than a Friday. It's just the way consumer calls are. And so if we have 400 agents, which is about what we have right now, and this is true for a lawn company that has 10 customer support agents, at any given time or shift, you maybe have 70% of the folks that are working, the other on break or off. Monday, you need 100%. You need everyone to just put up the hand and say that is a day that nobody can take that day off. And that's classically a day that a lot of people get sick. You have a lot of no-shows on Mondays. And so this year and over the last 8 years, we've just found strategies to reduce the no-shows and to get more folks to work on Monday. And some of the things that we've done, we'll text everyone Sunday evening and just let them know how excited we are to see them on Monday. We'll let them know. We used to do pizza parties when we had an in-office call center. Now that we're at home, at times we'll send them a little credit on DoorDash or Uber Eats to let them get a free meal on us. And we'll, almost always run an incentive with games and just team goals and incentives for Monday to make it exciting and kind of remind them that, hey, we need you to show up for Monday. So I think in short, it is a difficult year. So we've had to be really honest about what the wage level needs to be. And then we've doubled down on things that have worked for us in the past to get people to really show up on the days and at the times that we need them to take care of our clients' calls. We have a lot of calls to answer. We take over 1 million calls every year for lawn care and pest control companies. And so we really need the team to come together, especially in the busy season, to take care of them. So
tell the audience what, and maybe you just did, but tell us what exactly Slingshot does.
So I think simplest way to understand Slingshot is we are a 24/7, 365 sales and customer service team for lawn companies and pest control. So our teams, so specifically for lawn, we have a lawn call center, a group of agents, about 100 of them, that they only take lawn calls. And so they are trained on how to sell it and then how to handle the common customer service needs, which usually have something to do with the bill or something to do with scheduling. And we will stand behind your brand and be white labeled and represent your brand whenever you need us. So really common use case for Slingshot is a lawn company will say, okay, you're 24/7. I either don't want to ask my staff or I just don't have the staffing to answer phones on a Friday night or Saturday or a Sunday. But I looked into my phone system and sure enough, I am getting calls on those strange off hours. And so I'll just forward those to Slingshot. I'll give you my pricing and my scheduling protocol. And in some cases, we'll even sync right into the CRM. And Slingshot will take care of the calls for you. And that's true on the customer service side of the house too. And so that's how our company started and how we grew. And along the way, we built technology to put that service on steroids, for lack of a better term. And part of what the technology platform does, it says not only can you send calls and interactions to Slingshot at any time you're not there, but also in any channel. So we'll text enable your phone number. We'll give you web chat and other tools to just make it easier for a lead to reach out to you and connect, or a customer that maybe doesn't want to call, but they'll text you. So we've built in the technology with it, but it's all in the name of communicating with customers, getting to leads quickly, driving more sales, and driving more retention with successful customer service.
So you started as off hours, but now you're all hours?
Yeah, we started it's a good question. It brings back a funny memory. We started as 24/7, 365. And as you said at the intro, I was in law school at the time. And by the way, if you ever get the chance to live in West LA, it's beautiful. Every day of the year, it's 75 degrees. So I really loved it. But I was busy. I was a busy law student. I had 2 co-founders, and we were the company. And so we were taking the calls, and we were the 24/7 team, and that was really hard. So we were just taking turns sleeping on the couch, and 3 of us covering all the shifts, and we pulled it off for a few months. And I remember after like 3 months, my co-founder, Chris, came to me and said, we either need to stop answering calls in the middle of the night or I'm quitting. So we kind of tamed down some of just the really tough hours, like, middle of the night to 3 a.m. and focused on, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. early in the morning. And that's where we stayed for a couple years. And then as our company grew, we went back to 24/7, 365. So that's where we've been for the last 5 years. And when you get to our size, you will find sales reps and customer service agents that they, for whatever reason, their lifestyle, they want to work in the middle of the night. So we'll post these graveyard shifts online, and we get a lot of takers, and they're on the phones from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. answering lawn calls.
Yeah. And so do you have people answering the phone from overseas where it's daytime?
We haven't offshored yet. And the reason we haven't offshored is we've really felt that when a customer calls a local home service provider like a lawn care company, it kind of throws them off if they sniff out the accent. I mean, it's one thing if you're calling United Airline or a big bank and you feel that kind of overseas disconnect in the communication and you're like, okay, they're cutting costs. It is what it is. But I think consumers kind of would balk at that. And we've seen a couple people kind of come in that are offshore call centers that have introduced an offering, and we'll see them at a big trade show, and then we don't see them the next year, because I think that there's a local nature of what we all do in this industry that it takes a local person to answer as in a sales opportunity or customer service.
So Taylor, I know you prepared a couple slides about the company. Should we jump right into that?
Yeah, that sounds great. Just quick check on audio and visuals. Are you seeing it okay? Does everyone see this slide that says answer first?
Looks good.
Awesome. So it's part of our slogan, answer first and answer fast. As we talked about, we're 24/7. We've had a lot of fun growth through the years. It's brought challenges, but it's been extremely exciting. Since we started in 2014, we have grown 50% or more every year, including last year we grew 70%. And so we're just fortunate that the industry has embraced us, and we felt like we've kind of hit on some problems that hadn't yet been solved. We are lawn care experts. We have a team that only handles lawn care calls. We take over 1 million calls a year. Work with some of the best and well-known green and lawn companies in the industry. Some of you folks are probably on this webinar. You'll recognize some of these brands. I would say our core value proposition and problem we solved early on was that there is a decent amount of leads and calls that do come in outside of regular business hours. So 8 to 5, 75% of the calls come in, but after that, there's leads. People are off work, or people just don't get around to calling or contacting until the weekend. So that's an issue that we help resolve. Especially someone that is calling to get a quote, a lead, or a sales opportunity, they are impatient. And it feels like they get less patient every year. So the average lead will wait about a minute before they hang up and just call the next company down the list. It can be hard to answer every single call in under a minute, especially on Mondays. Texting is now the most preferred communication channel for most customers in the US, has the highest engagement, highest satisfaction scores over phone and web chat. And interestingly enough, 1 in 3 US customers, and this is across any industry, has texted a business to inquire about their service, and that business was not set up for texting. And so those leads just went into the ether. So we feel that being text enabled is really important. And then lastly, I would just say lead response. It's one thing to answer the incoming call, but what about a web form fill? Someone fills out a web form on HomeAdvisor, Angie's List, or your own website. How quickly are we able to respond to them? It turns out when you look at the variables of what makes a customer choose a lawn company, and you have price, service quality, reviews, scheduling, the number one factor for whether or not you win a lead's business is if you talk to them first. They have a problem, and if you talk to them first and give them a compelling solution, then about 3/4 will go with you. So just to sum up some of the main challenges that we help with, limited availability, so all the after-hour leads and communication that comes in, getting to leads first and responding immediately, not having long hold times, especially lunch, early morning, and Mondays, and then being able to text. And then lastly, this is all overlaid by one reason that I've always felt that lawn, the green industry, and pest control in general were underserved by call center and sales solutions is the industry seasonality is just tough to get a hold of and really get in front of before it happens, operate efficiently in season, and then figure out kind of how to scale down and lean out in the off season. That's just hard for anyone to do, including Slingshot. And so as lawn companies kind of struggle with that on their own, we give them a bit of a release valve and say, hey, we've got some extra agents that we've already trained and staffed up that we're ready for the season, so that you don't have to take the entire burden. We do use a lot of technology and automation to help put these services on steroids. Part of the platform is being industry specific. A lot of call centers come in and they're big, and they do services for lawyers and doctors and hospitals and banks, and we just do lawn care and we just do pest control. That is it. So we really dig deep in these industries. We're always available. We're CRM enabled. We know that your CRM tool is where you house your customer information, your payments, and your routing and scheduling. We can auto sync to those at times, and we can also pull those up and work in those platforms to have first call resolution. And then we do have a sales expertise. So another way to think about what we do is on the front end, we help capture leads. And we do that by always being available, so calls can come to us on behalf of your brand, and by providing technology that we can wrap around your brand, like text-enabled your number and giving you web chat. So we'll capture it, we'll represent your company, we'll sell it and schedule it, collect payment, turn it over to you by putting it into your CRM and our dashboard, and then your company goes out and services it. You have a new customer, and hopefully a customer for life. One of the nice benefits of going with Slingshot is you now get to jump online, change your hours. Doesn't mean that you're going to go out and service folks in the middle of the night, but it does mean you're open when you have Slingshot in your corner, and that's very visible for someone that's searching lawn care or fertilization near me. You will see the hours, and if someone's closed, there's a big red close that's on the Google search. So yours will be open. And we've noticed that companies that change those hours and list that they're open get about 10% more calls after hours. This is a look at our web chat tool. Matches your brand and coloring, goes on your website. It stops a lot of website abandonment. If someone isn't seeing exactly what they clicked on your website for immediately, web chat will pop up. It's powered by a human. We'll talk to them, get them on the phone. We can text enable your existing phone number. Both of these tools we can use on your company's behalf, or you're able to use them internally to communicate with your customers on your own. And we call it a multi-channel inbox. I think the funnest thing for me at Slingshot has always been, and probably always will be, when I'm at an industry event and a lawn care owner comes up to me and it's maybe 10 at night, we're getting drinks, and he gets a notification on his phone and says, I just got a new customer from Slingshot. And what we really try to do is, instead of waking up in the morning and having new voicemails in your inbox or on your phone, you have new customers. And then we also pull in all the other communication type into the same platform to make it easy to manage. So another kind of look at how the solution comes together. We have our software that helps manage communication, puts new sales and customer interactions in one easy to manage dashboard for your team and ours. And then what our team can help fill the gaps with. If you're not going to be answering communication at 9 on a Friday, we'll capture leads, queue it up for you to go give a quote on site if that's your sales motion. We'll complete the sale on our own if you like us to do it over the phone. We'll do any type of customer support, collecting payment, handling a billing issue, reschedule. In some cases, we can do outbound sales campaigns for upsells based on the season. And we can help with AR management. If you have some folks that are falling a little bit behind on their bill, we can call them up and get them current for you. So results that we strive for, especially when someone has us doing a lot of sales for them. We love it when every dollar that is spent on Slingshot, we produce $4 plus in new revenue. And we really strive for that as a benchmark. We've had companies that have been up to 8 or 9x on an ROI. And then on getting to calls quickly, our sweet spot is 30 seconds or less. So if we can answer a call in about 5 to 6 rings, that still enables us to keep all our agents busy, but we're getting to customers before they're hanging up and frustrated. Another thing that we really pride ourselves on, for those of you that own a business or own a P&L for your department, you really understand that a cost of an employee is more than just their wage. The all-in burden cost to the company is quite a bit. Even at $10 an hour or $20 an hour, it can add up to $50,000 plus a year. And so we really try to make sure that Slingshot is less than that. So you have savings that are associated with using Slingshot. You get the 24-hour, 365 nature of what we do for less than the cost of a normal employee, and then you also get all the technology with web chat and text. And lastly, with call routing, just wanted to clarify, there's a lot of ways you can skin the cat. We're flexible. You do whatever works for your business. If you think we can help in any way, we're happy to take 1 call all year or 100,000 calls. And the way that works is you can do scheduled routing. So you can say, hey, we know that we're going to answer the phone between 8 and 6 Monday through Friday. Outside of those hours, we want to automatically forward to Slingshot to represent us. You can do wait time routing, which means that you can say, well, regardless of the time of day, I want to give my folks 30 seconds to get to the lead or the call. After that, we'll forward it to Slingshot. And you can just do manual routing. There's been a lot of talk today about culture and team building and retention, and those things are super critical right now with labor shortages and keeping morale high. If you decide you want to take your entire company, including the support staff that are often left out of these events because someone needs to man the phones, take them all out to lunch or barbecue, from 11 to 1. You can just hit a button and turn the calls over to Slingshot for 2 hours to make that company event possible for everyone. So however it works for your company, we're happy to be in your corner and help out. And that, in a nutshell, is Slingshot. If you think we can assist you at all this year, please reach out. You can connect with our team at sales@getslingshot.com. You're welcome to email me personally. It's taylor@getslingshot.com, and we'd love to hear from you. So with that, just wanted to thank the folks again for hosting. Thank you, Jeffrey. Really appreciate Landscape Management for putting this together, and I'll send it back to Seth.
Awesome. Thank you, Taylor. This has been great, guys. I mean, this has been such a thrill to sit here and listen in. And I can tell you right now that we got some great content for our viewers, and we're also going to package some of this for the magazine. I learned a ton. So again, want to thank everyone. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Jeffrey, Ted, and Chris for your time today. And I want to thank everyone who in the audience who attended our webinar. This has been how to make money and keep customers happy during a labor shortage, brought to you by Landscape Management Magazine and our sponsors of the event, Slingshot. If you have, here's the contacts for everyone. you have any questions, you don't have to worry about scribbling this down. We'll get it to you. If you have any questions for me, for our speakers, you can reach us directly via these email addresses you see on the slide. The resources panel houses a PDF of today's presentation slides, and you can download that. To get to that panel, click the green icon at the far right end of the toolbar at the bottom of the screen. A recording of this webinar will be emailed to everyone tomorrow, and it will be posted to landscapemanagement.net/webinars. We keep all of our webinars there, so you can always check and see other things that you may have missed. This concludes the event. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and we hope you'll join us for another great webinar in the future. Take care, everybody.